This is Professor Jeffrey Sachs, who I'm sure you're familiar with. I wanted to play snippets of his speech and kind of go through it with you because it's very interesting. Let's take a look.
U.S. politics is basically a plutocratic state where public policy has been taken over by several powerful lobbies, each one devoted to its specific area. And they keep the control over U.S. policy through campaign contributions, because our election campaigns are funded by billionaires and by corporate lobbies. And they cost about $15 billion now for an election cycle. And you may have seen George Soros yesterday said, I give my empire to my son. And the son said, I'm going to fund the Democratic Party. Well, that's the billionaires that he'll put in hundreds of millions of dollars. $1 billion would not be surprising in the 2024 election. And then there are other billionaires. And so what are the lobbies? Wall Street controls financial policy, and our health lobby controls our unbelievably expensive private so-called health system. And our ag lobby controls the food industry with about 60% obesity or overweight in the United States, another huge, very serious public health crisis. And the military-industrial complex controls foreign policy, not just military policy, foreign policy. So we have perpetual war and trillion-dollar military budgets, $900 billion in the Pentagon budget, but there's a lot more. There's the CIA and there's Homeland Security, and there are many other categories, Department of Energy with nuclear weapons and so on. It's maybe $1.2 trillion a year.
Sorry, I don't want to cut the man off, but I'm sitting here and like, yes, please go on. I don't even know where to stop him. Just keep going.
So that's on the spending side. On the revenue side, we have unanimous agreement among the billionaires. Don't tax us. It's very simple. So we have a low tax collection in the United States, and this spending on the military, for example, which has cost about $6 trillion in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and some of the other wars. $6 trillion. It's a lot, by the way. It starts to add up a little bit. And so our debt crisis comes from a broken political system. It's not so interesting, Democrats and Republicans, by the way. That's a little bit a children's game. The oligarchy the plutocracy is both parties.
There you go. And children's game is putting it mildly. I find it so boring. Jesus Christ. This is one of the most boring things on earth. Like, oh, Democrat, Republican. When are people going to wake up? It's like, he called it a plutocracy. Yeah, that's one way of saying it. Or oligarchy. Yes, that's another way of saying it. You can also call Democrats and Republicans like two wings of one party. Yes, that should scare you, because if you have a so-called democracy and this is what democracy is supposed to mean will of the majority. I don't see that anywhere in any of the sectors you mentioned. You saw the ones you went through: health, right? Big pharma. Big farming, big pharma and big farming, the military industrial complex, so-called. Like one of these sectors, just one. Did you see any one of those where you actually have will of the majority, will of the people represented in? No, not a single one.
The plutocracy is both parties, and I lost interest in the because it's basically
yes, thank you. That's it's a good way of saying it. Yeah,
a game that is below our intelligence.
Thank you very much.
And this is our problem. Now we will have rising debt.
Yes, I must say this is rather beneath our intelligence, go boy. Yes, we'd rather surpass this game now.
In the future, it's a big country, big economy. We can spend a lot on wars. There's been no public debate for a moment on the $120 billion that has been spent so far. This has all been just bits and pieces inside omnibus legislation. So we can't get a debate on anything because there is no debate. There'll have to be another appropriation for Ukraine. They'll try to put it in a must-pass bill so that it's not really debated and can just be snuck in, because there's no interest in asking the American people anything about any of this. There's no attempt at deliberative democracy at all. No debate at all.
You know, he's been getting a lot of crap lately, I think, because like Mearsheimer, right? Because of he made the mistake of, like, you know, being intelligent and explaining things properly. How dare he? Yes, he's rather the malfeasant type, isn't he, old boy? Yes. Yeah, so, you know, I think this is really funny, this thing about two parties. And his name is Jeffrey Sachs. I see somebody asking in the comments. Jeffrey Sachs, Sachs. I must admit, I hadn't seen the other half of the clip, and he kind of, you know, went into what I said, which is that you don't have any representation, right? Which is kind of weird, because I thought the whole point of separating the 13 colonies, the United States, from Britain was that, you know, the rallying war cry was no taxation without representation. And yet I see taxation and no representation. So you kind of got screwed. And Americans have no healthcare system. At least in England, there is a healthcare system. It's not the best, but it is a healthcare system. It's the NHS. The Americans don't even have the NHS. But no, it's actually sad. It's actually very sad, you know. And I think what is something that he touched on, how much is spent in the wars. And, you know, he mentioned the cost, the monetary financial cost of this. And I'm not trying to give him any crap here, because I know that he was talking about cost and in terms of how much is put into it, right? To kind of give you an idea of how big it is. But I wanted to add one thing, is that even though it's like, what did he say? 6 trillion? Even, let's say it's 100 trillion. And Jesus, I don't want to give them any ideas, but let's say it's 100 trillion. That doesn't come close to equaling the human lives that are actually really paying the price of these wars. Because at the end of the day, these are numbers. It's paper. They're numbers on a screen. But you have people that are really paying the price for this, and, you know, they don't come from Wall Street or any of those parties, and they're on the receiving end. They're on the receiving end. I think, and I was stressing that earlier when I talked about refugees, like Mr. Blinken pretending to care about refugees. And when he's helped cause refugees, right? And he continues to help cause refugees. You know, his stance as a Secretary of State, you know the rest. But I think this is you know, a very dangerous game that he's playing at, Mr. Sachs. You know, he's daring to actually speak the truth, and people don't like that. Right, so now he gets called like, oh, he's a Russian puppet, he's a Putin puppet, blah blah blah. It's so boring, you know. And the funny thing is, like, I'm pretty sure that people have said this about him, and he gets told this sometimes, not because it has any basis in reality, but I'm sure someone will go up to him and say, well, you're a right winger, right? Like you're talking Republican stuff. First of all, what is right wing in the United States? Everything is right wing. Democrats are right wing. Right? I mean, if you look at this through the lens of reality and how most of the world organized their politics, Democrats are right-wing, Republicans are just maybe a little bit more right-wing. Today, who can tell the difference? You have all of these neoconservatives from the Bush era, like Dick Cheney, like, you know, Colin Powell's gone now, but Colin Powell, he spoke where? At the DNC. The DNC, right? All of these Bush era neocons, they all feel at home in the Democratic Party now because this is their home. They like, and that's not to say that the current Republican Party is so good that these bad people left. No, they're both crap. They're still crap. But my point is that it kind of shows you how little difference there is between the two. That people like Dick Cheney and so on, they feel comfortable aligning themselves with someone like Biden. Well, hold on a second. I thought Biden's supposed to be Democrat and he's supposed to be right. He's not supposed to be right wing. Yeah, guess what? They're all very, very much alike. You know, it's funny because if you this is not understood in the U.S. They think Democrat is left and Republican is right. And if you say something against Democrats, who are, like I said, the home of neocons, who are now in government, then this by default, in their logic, criticizing Democrats means you are right wing. Oh my God. oh my God, Lord help us. I hear, I get told stuff like that sometimes. Oh, you're right wing. Jesus Christ, you must be stupid, like beyond words to think that. Really. The left for them, being on the left, and when I say left, I mean a real left, like a European left, or in the United States, the left from 100 years ago, right? Because there used to be one. This is so, beyond their comprehension that they cannot even grasp what it is, what it entails, what shape and forms it can take. Exaggerated and morbidly obese numbers of propaganda dollars, right, that have been thrown into advertising and the election cycles that he meant. These exorbitant amounts that people have no understanding anymore, and it's by design. This is by design. So when you have an educator like himself who comes along, they don't know how to handle this guy. They don't know how to respond, and so they just default to what the people on television told them. Oh, he must be a Russia propagandist. Oh, he must be doing Putin propaganda. I'm losing patience, but I like to think that most people actually are. They have woken up, and I don't mean in America. I mean like everywhere, including America, Europe, everywhere. They know the game. They understand the game that's being played, and they actually don't think like this. They know what's going on. I like to believe this. I have to believe this. All right, I have to believe this. I think most people are have got their heads screwed on right. It's a positive, promising,
this legislation.
optimistic thought. But he said $1 billion will be spent in the next election cycle, and he wouldn't be surprised. I won't be surprised either. Actually, I think that's probably already been spent. It's just we don't hear about these figures. In the past few minutes, I'm criticizing the United States a lot. Well, not the United States. I'm criticizing the tiny circle of people in Washington, D.C., right? Let me criticize Europe now and say, and I did this earlier, and I said that the media in Europe is really very much the same. There's no room for critical thinking. It's very stupid. It's very dumbed down. And you find this, and I showed this to you because I'm reading media in multiple languages. It's not different. It's not something confined to Anglo-Saxon. You see this in French media. You see this in German media, Austrian media. It's all the same. It is the same propaganda that you hear, like that you're hearing from Fox or CNN or MSNBC or BBC. I'm telling you, I know it is the same in French and it is the same in German. There is no difference whatsoever. It's all the same. Oh, Russia is evil. Russia is that. NATO is a good alliance. NATO is defensive. Well, and that's it. And censorship is good. That's why we have to ban RT. We have to ban. It's kind of funny because at least in the United States, there's no. I mean, you could never get away with this with banning, in RT because of the First Amendment, which is perhaps the only redeemable thing that we can say here. The thing is, though, does that mean the United States is a good place for journalists? No, I know that more than anyone else covering the Assange thing. It's definitely not. He is not given any First Amendment rights. But my point here is that in Europe, it's already been banned, since a year. RT is banned, Press TV is banned, and that's it. It's just like, we're all going to go along with this because there is no equivalent of a First Amendment, and it's for the greater good, right? This is because we know better. We are adults, and you people are idiots. So we will ban all these outlets that just so happen to be critical of us, but actually they're evil, we promise. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm getting at? You have this same kind of dumb thinking, and it's worse in a way because they actually get away with this stuff legally. I don't think this would have any it wouldn't have a leg to stand on in the US, but again, the US has its own ways of dealing and attacking foreign outlets. I mean, they literally stole Press TV's website. So what can I say? They literally stole the website. It's gone. It's presstv.com. Go visit it. It says it has like I think it was an FBI logo. They use multiple departments, right, to steal these websites. So is it really better? They can also use sanctions to do these things. So my point here is that there's a transatlantic trend of stupidity, and it's not amongst the people necessarily, but it's enough that the political elites that control the United States and Europe, and hold the keys of power, they have, they're embracing this fully. And I don't think this is okay. I don't think people should accept this. When are we going to be done with these motherfuckers, man? When are we going to be done?